everyone for joining us today for the ANA eLearning Academy. Today we have Ross Johnson, who will be presenting on the St. Gaudens Double Eagle Die Varieties Revisited. If you have any questions during this, you will be muted, so please put them in the chat or the Q&A, and I will read them to Ross at the end. Go ahead, Ross. We're excited to hear from you.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. And thanks everyone for attending. So collecting St. Gaudens Double Eagle Die Varieties is an exciting yet affordable way to own interesting and potentially rare examples of America's most beautiful coin. With most varieties found among the more available issues from the 1908 to 33 series, this new focus on these generic saints makes collecting them both fun and potentially rewarding. Collectors are now becoming more familiar with these coins through new and expanded published and internet resources. Finding, collecting, and discovering new saint varieties will no doubt become essential to the future study, enjoyment, and understanding of this popular gold series. I'll try not to read every slide, but there is a lot of material, and hopefully, if you want later, you can watch the video and turn down the sound and read them for yourself. So saints. Theodore Roosevelt said, "I want to have this nation do something that shall rank with the best work of the kind that has ever been done." And he enlisted Augustus St. Gaudens to design some of America's coins. And the Double Eagle Liberty is more or less based on the Sherman Monument Victory. And this is his original sculpt. And this is what I consider to be the atrocious 1986 reboot. You'll notice they thinned her waist because they felt it was more appropriate for the 1980s. I'm sure there would be an outcry today. And if Mr. St. Gaudens could see this, I suspect this would be his reaction. This was the 1909 ultra high relief, 2009 ultra high relief that just goes to show the mint is capable of wonderful things if given the chance. But we're going to focus on these coins, which are the Charles Barber low relief St. Gaudens Double Eagles. Most of the inexpensive Double Eagles from this series are of this type and are from the 20s and a few from the early teens. Out of a total mintage of 70 million, only about 3 million are estimated to survive today in all states of preservation. Of that number, 1.2 million are of a single date, 1924. That's 40% of what survives. Most were melted into 400 troy ounce bars and shipped by train to Fort Knox, where they tell us they're still there. And of the 2 million coins certified by NGC and PCGS, excluding the overdate, less than 1,500 varieties have been attributed by the two major third-party graders. So anybody studying varieties needs to find the books that will give them the information that they need or the other resources. And it's always a good idea to buy the book before the coin. We all hear that many, many times, and it's good advice. When it comes to St. Gaudens Double Eagle varieties, there's basically 3 references. And the major one is Roger Burdett's 2018 release, St. Gaudens Double Eagles. Of course, the Cherry Picker's Guide, which covers varieties in all series. And NGC's Variety Plus webpage, which has been pretty important in the last, I'd say, 10 to 15 years. So Roger's book is the blockbuster. 2018 marked the publication of the key series resource, particularly with regards to St. Gaudens Double Eagle variety collecting. And it won the Book of the Year and Best U.S. Coin Book from the Numismatic Literary Guild and got wonderful accolades from the Numismatic Press. And this book has illustrated varieties, 137 entries, 75 are die variations, 18 are mint mark style varieties, which doesn't move me, but and then there's 44 repunched mint marks. The Cherry Picker's Guide is the standard reference of major die varieties of United States coins. The 5th edition is sort of out of print. You can't really find it. And It lists 6 St. Gaudens double eagle die varieties currently recognized for slab attribution by both major third-party grading firms, PCGS and NGC. Cherry Picker's Guide is the threshold. If you can get into this Cherry Picker's Guide, the third-party graders will attribute your coins. And the reason that's key is because, first of all, when people see them, they're more inclined to collect them. If they know about them, they'll look for them. And then they'll send the coins in to be attributed. And catalogers, when they see a slab with an attribution on it, will bother to look up what that's all about and put it in a catalog description. The problem that you have with coins that are not in the Cherry Picker's Guide is, particularly with PCGS, they won't attribute your coins, which means that if you put them up for auction, you'll have to tell the cataloger if you know. Otherwise, they sell unattributed. And the problem there is that they might not generate as much of a premium as they would if people knew what they were and how rare they were. But we'll get into that. We're waiting for the next 6th edition, which is going to include 5 more St. Gaudens double eagle die varieties. It's due for publication sometime this year. And I asked as recently as yesterday and still don't have a date. So we're waiting for that. Okay, the Variety Plus page is pretty key. It has quite a bit more varieties than the Cherry Pickers, and Dave Lang, who runs it, is constantly adding more. It's hard to keep up with him, but this is a smattering of what's there. They have been aggressive in identifying double dies. This is from a communication from him to me. When Variety Plus began over 20 years ago, it was almost unimaginable that anyone would collect post-1834 gold coins by varieties. The only persons I knew doing this were Harry Bass and John McCloskey. We seldom received any coronet, liberty, and later gold coins for variety attribution, but this has changed dramatically since that time. So things are changing. Die varieties, a very significant piece, which would probably be more popular and costly if it weren't so rare. That's very true. So the issue with third-party grading, I use third-party grading census data to give myself a sense of how rare these things are. And at best, it's an estimate. Third-party graders include disclaimers with their online reports. The lower grade coin populations are understated due to the economics of grading. It really doesn't pay if you've got lower grade generic saints that have them graded. You won't get the money back when you go to sell them. Higher grade numbers may be overstated due to crack out resubmissions. I guess we're all familiar with that. People get their coins back. They don't like the number. They crack them out and send them back in, hoping they'll get a higher number. And they may do this 3, 4, or 5 times until it goes up a grade, which on occasion can make a big difference in what the resale value of the coin is. Reports do not reflect reductions for coins lost, destroyed, or removed from holders. And PCGS specifically addresses varieties with the following statement. The populations reported for these coins may be artificially low and not representative of the actual number of these coins available in the marketplace. This is certainly true because a lot of people, particularly with Saints varieties, don't realize they have a variety coin and don't send it in to be attributed. And the same is true of dealers. This is my rebuttal to some of this. The use of third-party grading population data does provide insight and value to any analysis. It's a great starting point. You know that there's at least that number out there that people are aware of. Analyzing the number of attributed coin varieties combined with other data, research methods, and materials is the best way to estimate real populations. So you start with attribution data from the third-party graders, and then you go on sites like Heritage and Stax Bowers and do some research, look at their coins and see if you can't find ones that are unattributed in their archives or in upcoming auctions, and that'll give you a better idea of what's out there. The change in numbers over time and even the rate of change is an indicator of search activity and potential market interest in these varieties as more and more of them are attributed and accounted for. So just looking at static third-party grading attribution numbers isn't nearly as interesting as looking at them every so often and seeing if they're going up and which ones are going up and by how much. It gives you an idea of whether people are looking for these or not. So my analysis starts with your listing of the St. Gaudens double eagles. And you'll notice, let's see if my little arrow works here. Yes, it does. I have my third-party grader totals here. And you can see down here that there's 2 million of these coins have been graded, different numbers of different dates. And if we sort them by third-party grader totals, you get this list. And obviously, when they go from low to high, as you would expect, the ones with the lower numbers have the highest prices. And the ones with the highest numbers have the lowest prices. That's what we call an inverse correlation. So these are the 12 rarest or key date saints based on third-party grader numbers. These are the 12 that have third-party grader totals, attribution totals between both PCGS and NGC of under 1,000 coins. And you can see the kinds of prices that they garner. These are the ones we're going to talk about, some of these, and we're going to talk about a few others too. But you can see quite a few of them cluster in the generic area of the chart where the prices are relatively low and the populations of generic coins is relatively high. So if you were to total up the market value or the sale price, I'm using CoinWorld's, this says 9/20/20, but it's actually not. That's a mistake. I got these prices from March, the March issue. But anyway, $35,000 out of what would be a $2 million set. So it's much more affordable. So we're going to look at the varieties one by one. And the Cherry Picker's Guide has had 6 in the current book, which has been out since 2012. And even in the prior book, it had the same 6. I'm not sure how far back you have to go. I only have the last 2 issues, which takes us pretty far back. But we're going to start with the overdate. The 1909 over 8, everyone's familiar with this. It has numbers associated with it in the 3 references that we talked about. And it's also distinguished by being in the Red Book, and it's been in the Red Book since 1947 when the first Red Book came out. And of course, here it is. And most people are familiar with this coin. And this is the way I analyze populations, okay? I have the total graded for the 1909. Well, this is total graded for 1909 between PCGS and NGC. This includes the 1909s and the 1909 over 8 overdates. And you can see this is the total for all grades. And then I have them broken down by sub-min state and 60 through 67. And then we look at the variety. And you can see right away that in the case of the overdate, there's actually 53% of all of the attributed 1909 coins are the overdate. So more than half. But it is interesting that the overdate does still command a premium in the market. And it's also interesting if you look at the percentages, if 53.55 is the average percentage, when you get into higher grade coins, it's pretty much on target. For some reason, 64s are a little underrepresented. But you can see sub-mint state, there's quite a few more of them that have been attributed. And the reason probably is that if you have a 1909 coin and it is the overdate, you bother to get it slabbed because somebody may give you a premium for it just because it's the overdate. So this is how you have to learn how to interpret these numbers. Okay, a 1909 repunch mint mark, S over S, in the 3 books. This is the one that's in the Cherry Picker's Guide. And you can see it has these little, I like to think of them as vampire fangs underneath the S. And there are 91 of these coins. out of a total of 13,317 1909 S's that have been attributed. And if we look at our list of our top dozen, that makes this coin, at least based on this number, rarer than 10 out of the 12 key dates. Now, is that in fact a true statement? We can't really say for sure, but what we can say is that so far there's only been 91 of these identified. And if we look at numbers later on, we'll see that more are being added, but obviously there will be a saturation point. People are looking for them if they found 91 so far. So we shall see. This is the 11D over D. This is the next most famous after the overdate. Again, it's in all three of the resources. And here it is. It has a rather pronounced crescent here. And in Roger's book, he actually has three of these, and they more or less look identical. The one that supposedly is the cherry picker one is the one where you can see a little bit of the serif here above the D. I'm still not completely convinced that these are all different. It's hard to tell from the illustrations in Roger's book. And I'm sure that most people that have one of the three have sent it in and gotten them attributed, which explains the numbers. There's 889 of these have been attributed out of 27,000. That's quite a high number, but they still command a premium. And as we'll see later on, sometimes the premium is quite a bit. This is just to show you, this is an ad that I found on the internet where someone is bothering to do sort of what I'm doing here and pointing out that it's 31 times rarer than the regular 11D. So dealers are starting to pick up on this stuff. They're saying the 11D repunch mint mark is one of the few distinct die varieties in the St. Gaudens series. This is a must for any St. Gaudens collector. The repunch mint mark was created when the first strike of the D mint mark was struck too far right. The second strike was made correct place. It's nice to see advertisers pick up on this stuff, because the value of these coins is really more of a function of how many people know about them and have reason to become interested in them. And it's not about how rare they are. It's about how many people want them or think they're neat. 22 double die reverse. This coin is very cool. I like this coin. It's also in the three main sources with numbers identifying the variety, and it's also in the mega red, which makes it pretty important. It's not in the regular red book yet, but this coin, if you look in the ARS here, you can see clearly some notches and some doubling of the rays here in the S, and then also down in God We Trust, you can see here there's some pretty pronounced doubling. And despite the fact that it's in all these books, only 42 of these coins have been found so far that are attributed, and that's out of 190,000 coins. That's only 0.04%. So that's a fairly rare coin, I would think. And if you're going to own a 22, I'd much rather own one of these than just a regular old boring coin. Now, I didn't quite mention this, but because these coins that we're going through are in the Cherry Pickers Guide, both PCGS and NGC attribute them. So we have figures for both. So this number really is from both major third-party graders, 25 PCGS and 17 NGC. But even with a total of 42, it's rarer than 11 out of the 12 key dates. There are 49 1930 S's that are in slabs. There's only 42 attributed slabs with 22 double die reverses. And the 25. This one, I think, is also pretty famous at this point. It's also in the mega red, relatively speaking, when I say famous. But you can see there's very pronounced doubling here down by the eagle's talon. And within the feathers, there's quite a bit of activity going on. And these are fairly easy to spot. There's a reasonable number of them in relatively high grades. There's 9 of them in 66. There's even 3 in 67. But only 74 coins in total. And that's 0.07% of a very large mintage, or not mintage, but generic population of 109,894. And again, it's rarer than 10 of the 12 key dates. The 26 triple die obverse, again, it's in these 3 references. You can see some serious activity here around the initials, in the stars, in some of the numerals. And this one is very well known, and there are quite a few of these. 255 of these, which is still only 0.5%, but it's interesting. And you can see there's quite a few of them in the higher grades that are attributed. And it's still rarer than these 5 of the key dates. All right, the next group I'm going to show you are varieties that are on the Variety Plus page, and they're not in the cherry pickers. Some of them may be going in, but because they're only on the Variety Plus page, PCGS doesn't recognize NGC's expertise in varieties. Big surprise. So you can only get them attributed, I believe, through NGC, although PCGS has an odd policy of occasionally slabbing something with the phrase minor variety. And I have yet to understand how one can get that done, because if you go on their webpage, they say they only go by the cherry pickers. But be that as it may, we have another 1909 S over S, and this one actually predates the one that is in the Cherry Pickers Guide, in that Walter Breen discovered it years ago. But as of now, it's in Roger's book, and it's on the Variety Plus web page. And you can see the S here is pretty clear underneath. And it's kind of interesting to look at if you're into repunchment marks. Only 8 of these have been found. So that's 0.06%. So there's fewer of these than all of the key dates, including the 27D. Now, are you going to get $2 million for this, or $1,200,000? I doubt it. But it's kind of cool to own a coin that you can honestly say it's one of only 8 that are in slabs that say what it is. And as you can see here, for the next group of varieties, I will not be having variety numbers for PCGS because they don't slab them. So you got to take this with a grain of salt. There are a number of these I've found in PCGS slabs, so the number is probably higher. While we're talking about 1909S, on the Variety Plus page, there's actually 4 1909S repunch mint marks, 4 different ones. This is the first one that we looked at, which is in the Cherry Pickers Guide. This is the Walter Breen one, which is in Walter Breen's book, obviously, and Roger's book, and on the Variety Plus page, excuse me. This is a third one, which is in Roger's book, as well as the Variety Plus page, and a fourth one that is only on the Variety Plus page. And you can see by the numbers down here, this is how many have been attributed. NGC and PCGS combined, it's 91 on the first one. The one we just looked at is 8, which is no PCGS represented. This one, there's 18, which is interesting. There must be more of them. And then this one, there's 5. And you would expect this, but obviously, if all of these were in the Cherry Pickers Guide, they'd all have higher numbers, because first of all, PCGS would be attributing them, and second of all, more people would be aware of them. So 22 triple die obverse. This is in Roger's book. And here you can see there's what appears to be tripling on this star, and some doubling or tripling here and here and here. In Roger's book, he actually says that the 22 hubs were all doubled, and that what this is really a double die from a doubled hub, and it's actually has 4, but it's referred to as a triple die obverse on NGC's webpage, and there are 21 of these from NGC only, and that's 0.02% of 109,000 coins. And again, that's rarer than all but the 27D. This one's very interesting. Roger discovered this. It's 22S file die. And there was a write-up about it in Coin World when it was discovered back in 2018. And you can see it has, there was some die damage done with a flat file, is what Roger postulates. And you can see there's quite dramatic damage to this die that winds up looking like sun rays or sparkles. I don't know what you'd call it, but it's amazing to me that this wasn't discovered before 2018. And it's dramatic, and it's all through the coin. You know, it's up here, it's up here, it's down here. I was looking for one of these coins, and I went online and looked at in auction archives, because so far there's only one attributed, and the one that's attributed is Roger's discovery coin, and it's on the NGC webpage. But I found 4 more looking in auction archives, and so this is the coins that I am aware of at the moment that are the population for the file die. And even with 5, that's 0.22% of a much smaller total. 2,230 coins have been graded of the 22S's. The 22S is not what one would consider a generic coin. It's a little more expensive, but it's interesting nonetheless. It's such a dramatic variety, I had to include it. And then this one, the /2, which Dave Lang has put on the Variety Plus page, I discovered. And I discovered it looking for one of Roger's coins. And I found quite a few of these. And I thought, well, isn't this interesting? And I looked in Roger's book and it wasn't there. And I was able to get my hands on one and show it to Dave. And Dave slabbed it as a discovery coin, which I'm proud to own. And I did find 3 others in auction archives. Who knows how many of these there are? It's comparable to the file die, I assume. So far, I've only found a total of 4 of these. The 23 DDR, this one isn't on the Variety Plus page. It's pretty tough to see. It's pretty limited. It's this area here, obviously. You can see there's a slight doubling of the eagle's beak and a split to the ray. And so far, there's only been 2 of these attributed. One of them is mine because I found one and I sent it in. I did find one other one of these that I did not buy because I didn't like the coin for other reasons. It had some dirt on it. It looked like it was a raw coin. It looked like it might not come back in a body bag or something. So I didn't procure it, but you can see there are 59,000 of 23s out there. And so far there's only 2 of these. So it goes without saying, it's pretty rare if we believe the numbers. This one is very interesting, 24 double die obverse. It is on the Variety Plus page. If I don't get shot for saying so, I think it is going in the next Cherry Picker's Guide. It's a pretty dramatic double die. You can see it goes all the way up the length of Miss Liberty's gown. It's quite dramatic. And there's a fairly decent population of these that have been found, which means that people have been noticing them, looking for them. There's 71 of these. And when you consider it's only on the Variety Plus page, that's a pretty good number. It's still only 0.01% of the huge population of 24s. But if you're going to own a 24, wouldn't you rather own one of 71 than one of 647,000? Because 71 is less than 115, and there's 115 1931s out there slabbed. although some of those are probably resubmissions, no doubt. But anyway, it's in the ballpark. Okay, this one, the 28 DDO, I've got some confusion on this one myself because it's on the Variety Plus page, though without illustration. It's illustrated in Roger's book, but I tried to take scans of the book and it's not easy to see everything here. You can see there's some activity here on the stars, and it sort of looks like this is a little thicker than it should be. Maybe there's a little line here. And also Roger points out that the branch, he's saying the whole right side of the coin shows evidence of doubling. I haven't seen one of these in person. It goes without saying I don't have one. But you can see there's lines within the branches here. This looks like a double leaf right here. It's fairly clear cut. But that causes a quandary for me because I have this coin, and this coin was slab minor variety. It's a double die obverse, 1928, and it is clearly similar to Roger's coin. Is it the same coin? I don't think so. You can see the doubling here and there, but if you compare the branches, I don't see any evidence in this branch. There's some here. It's possible the coin that I have is a later die stage, and maybe through polishing or wear, whatever evidence of doubling is gone. But I'm inclined to think it's a different one, and it wouldn't surprise me. So now that we've looked at a bunch of the cherry pickers and the Variety Plus varieties, let's talk a little bit about these totals and what I mean by looking at them over time. This is the numbers from June of 2019, and these are the numbers from June of 2020 for NGC PCGS and their totals. And you can see over the course of 1 year, the change for the different coins adds up to 164 new coins attributed. 14 more of the cherry picker 1909S, 80 more of the 11Ds, 5 more of the 22 DDRs, 18 more 24s, 5 more of the 25s, and 42 more of the 26s. And I did this between June and March of this year, and there's 59 more. So people are looking for these. And granted, last year was a challenging year because we haven't had coin shows. And a lot of times trying to identify these kinds of varieties, you more or less have to have the coin in hand in order to see some of these things. To try to do it, looking at just auction websites, where the photography and imaging is variable, to say the least. It's not always easy to tell. So, but the takeaway from this for me is that, people are definitely looking for these and bothering to get them attributed. And I don't know if that's dealers, I don't know if that's collectors, but the numbers for some of them are going up, and that's a good sign. And hopefully maybe I've even contributed to this because I did give one other talk last August, and who knows, people were stuck in their houses and maybe that's what they were doing. So just for fun, I put in some new additions from Roger's book. These are not on the Variety Plus page. Nobody's attributing these. However, there's some, Roger's book is so full of interesting stuff that I couldn't resist adding a smattering of some of his new varieties. This is a 1909 proof, and he calls it a strike. It's a strike doubling because he says the actual dies don't show evidence of doubling. And the few coins that he's looked at, the doubling varies slightly, and that's consistent with the fact that these coins were struck maybe in a metal press and maybe struck multiple times, and the coin jostles around between strikes, and you get strike doubling. This is technically an error, not really a variety, I believe, the way most people see that. But it's interesting nonetheless, and it's a fun coin. But of course, it's a proof, so it's not cheap. This is just interesting to me. It's a 1913 rim break, and I saw the graphic in Roger's book, and I hunted on Heritage's website, Auction Archives, looking for one of these. And it took me a long time, but I finally found one that I could blow up the picture and you could see it. So it is interesting. It's kind of not a big deal, but some people are really intrigued by these things. And it does go to show that these things are, after all, made in a production plan, and things wear out and things happen. And this is one of the things that makes our hobby a little bit more fun and interesting. The 1922S, most of the high-grade 1922Ss I saw in Auction Archives exhibit this bizarre die collapse, which is this sort of buckling of the die as it's striking these coins. It's very interesting. I thought it was interesting. But anyway, I thought I would share it with you. The 26S triple die obverse. Okay, this is interesting because it's another example of how many of these kind of coins there are. I mean, we're all familiar with how many, well, we're not necessarily, but the 1926, there's a lot of those coins out there, 300, I think, some odd. And the 26S also is subject to this, which I guess makes sense, because if whoever was making these dies made them in Philadelphia and then they were sent out to San Francisco, it stands to reason they might have one that was also doubled or tripled. And there you have it. And the 27S, 1227, I like this one. The 27S is not a cheap coin, but this die chip makes this bizarre 9 look like a even more bizarre 2. That's kind of the holy grail, I guess, of varieties, because I don't know how many of these there are. I only found one. There's not many 27Ss out there in the first place. They cost lots of money. If you have one, God bless you. It's an interesting coin. Okay, so I get a lot of pushback. I have to tell you this. Mainly from dealer types that say, nobody wants these coins. Why do you waste your time? Why are you bothering me with this? So there's a debate in my mind, at least there is for me. And even the Cherry Picker's Guide is a little bit rough on gold varieties. Conventional wisdom regarding market premiums of gold coin varieties, particularly the larger denominations, goes something like this. And these are quotes from the Cherry Picker's Guide. With few exceptions, a double die, repunch mint mark, or overdate on a gold coin is less likely to command any premium over the value of the normal coin. Generally speaking, as the bullion value of a coin increases, the premium one might expect to be associated with that variety will go down. Many of the gold varieties will bring a small premium in lower grades. However, as the value of the normal coin reaches higher, any premium will soon evaporate. Okay, that's from the Cherry Picker's 5th edition. I believe it's also in the 4th edition. Hopefully it will not be in the 6th edition. And here's my rebuttal. Recent changes in the numismatic marketplace generally, and in the availability of relevant information, specifically in the case of St. Gaudens double eagles, is dramatically shifting this long-held paradigm. Okay, your traditional coin dealer. I once had a nice 1911 D over D gold $20, carried it for 5 years, and finally sold it for maybe 5% over a normal coin. I traveled to 40 to 45 shows a year. I used to do 20 plus auctions a year. I've done that for 52 years. People knowing I specialize in varieties have never once asked me for any variety in the $20 gold series. Versus this from the gray sheet of last year, where how much of my US 1911 D over D gold coins worth? While not a major variety, is worth pursuing, as its value is almost double the price of normal pieces. Now, I don't know where they got that, but they're saying it, and they're a pretty legitimate outfit. And this is even more compelling. This is a Coin World market analysis from Steve Roach. And this is a blow up of this writing because I know you can't read it. But the relevant stuff here is that he's talking about the Cherry Picker's Guide, and he's saying a listing in that book can boost a variety's popularity and legitimizes it beyond the realm of serious specialists, including introducing a variety to a broader collector base. This particular coin sold for $15,600 on September 18th. The price was exceedingly strong considering that it sold in the same slab with a CAC sticker for $2,640 at a heritage auction last year. Now, if that doesn't tell you that things are changing perhaps, or that people are crazy, I can tell you I wasn't the guy who paid $15,000 for this. I have enough of ones that I bought at this price that nobody knew were the variety. But in any event, it's pretty compelling evidence of something. And as far as whether gold coins, people are interested in varieties, the overdate, though not particularly rare in an absolute sense, brings a premium over the normal 1909, despite its higher surviving numbers. Virtually unknown until the 1940s, its subsequent fame, rather than absolute rarity, underlies its current market premium. That logic can apply to any gold coin of sufficient interest and notoriety. If it's interesting and people know about it, they're going to want it, and some people are going to pay a premium for it. There is ample evidence that collectors will pay premiums for gold coins, large or small, that differ from the usual, regardless of bullion prices or other factors. An added mint mark is the obvious example. Consider the 27D Denver versus Philadelphia issues in the case of double eagles. Mint marks are not varieties, but 120 years ago, no one was paying premiums for mint mark coins either. Would anyone expect the mint mark premium to go down because the underlying bullion value went up? It is increased knowledge about the coins and hobby trends that drive premiums for varieties in particular series, as much, if not more so, than grades, mintages, and other factors. And most of you, if you're familiar with St. Gaudens coins, know the 27D is the key, and a 27 is common as dirt. The recent 2020 World War II anniversary 1 ounce American Eagle proof with the V75 privy mark is a modern example of a large gold coin variety. Mint contrived with both a limited mintage of 1,945 coins and significant press available to the marketplace. The coin was a sellout within 10 minutes of its release last November and continues to draw market premiums upwards of 400% over the original issue price. This large gold coin has a low relative population and a minor but distinct physical difference in comparison with its standard counterpart, which is the very definition of a Saint variety. And the issue price for the 2020W with the privy mark was $2,600, and they're selling for $15,000 now. So does this coin care what happens to the price of bullion? I don't think so. Now maybe you'll say that's not a variety, but we can split hairs. Here's another piece of interesting information that's personal to me. Steve Roach was watching some auctions and noticed that a 22 sold for more than he thought it should. He's saying the 22 Double Eagle brought 3360, more than an average MS65 example. The typical MS64 example of the 22 might sell for 1,800. An average MS65 example might bring around 3,000. And this coin sold for 3360 on March 15th of 2020. Well, I wrote him back. He said the reason why that coin sold for more was because it was in particularly good condition, and he didn't go so far as to say it was undergraded, but he rationalized that it must be that it was a really nice looking coin. And I was the one who bought it. So I told him I beg to differ. The reason why I bought it was because it was a double eagle variety in a high grade, and I wanted to have it. And there was somebody underbidding me, and that's why it wound up that expensive. I would have preferred not to pay that for it. But the fact of the matter is, it wasn't the reason he thought. And I think this is part of the problem in the hobby generally, is that people tend to think that the reason why these coins don't get premiums is because they don't really understand what's going on. Logically, series enthusiasts who collect varieties are going to want the best grade examples they can find, just as with normal coins. If the number of variety collectors or the importance of varieties within a series increases, premiums will not likely evaporate for better graded coins. So that's in contrast to this statement here that's in the Cherry Pickers. And just for more information, from last year, I found 4 MS64 plus PCGS with CAC sticker coins. Here's one that sold in January your average generic normal 22, sold for $1,980. Here's another normal 22, which sold in March in a Stack's Bowers auction, also for $1,980. Here's the one I bought for $3,360, but it's unattributed, but I knew what it was because I could tell from the auction pictures. And here's one that was attributed. And lo and behold, it sold for $3,373, comparable to $3,360. So do I know what I'm talking about, or am I crazy? I'll accept either answer. But there is ample reason to believe that variety premiums can develop for these coins in the not too distant future, based not just upon recent anecdotal evidence of individual sales, but also from the histories of other series where scholarship in the form of significant publications has jump-started interest in marketplace activity. Roger Burdett's Saints book and the next edition of the CPG listing 5 new St. Gaudens double eagle varieties may have significant effect, but it will take some time to measure. The mention and relative rarity of an interesting variety in an auction or sales catalog description is the key ingredient behind measurable premiums being recognized and recorded as such. In the past, failure to identify and describe a given variety on the part of forgivably ignorant catalogers removed opportunities to measure premiums effectively. As greater numbers and types of varieties are attributed on slabs, catalogers will be challenged to include information about them in their descriptions. This ultimately leads to better market outcomes, data collection, accuracy, and insight with regards to observable variety premiums. I'm not going to tell you you're going to get rich collecting these. All I'm going to tell you is, for the time being, they're fun to collect, they're fun to find. If you can afford to buy some Saints, I would advise you to consider indulging yourself and looking at these because they're just fun coins. And I think they do have some market potential, but that's one man's opinion. The opportunity to buy a rare coin is often rarer than the coin itself. So I would suggest you buy Roger's book, The Standard Reference on St. Gaudens Double Eagles. It's loaded with a bunch of information we haven't gone over here. It's well worth the almost $100 price. It's just a wonderful book. And Roger's a wonderful researcher. He does tremendous work. The standard reference to die varieties is the Cherrypicker's Guide. And it's important because they're recognized by both PCGS and NGC. I wouldn't buy the current one if you can find it. I would wait for the 6th edition, which should be available soon from Whitman, they tell me. Search the internet. Check out online auctions with coin images that can be magnified. Heritage Auctions wins highest praise for image quality and die variety user friendliness. Stack's Bowers is next, followed by Great Collections. eBay is least reliable with no uniform image standards. Don't forget Auction Archives to study coin images and hone your detective skills. See if you can find Waldo down here. Go to coin shows. Boy, I can't wait to get back. Where you can see real coins, check out auction house lot viewing rooms, and locate Saints dealers on the bourse floor to review their inventories. Cherry pick. Not all pickup points used to identify varieties are easily visible in digital images. Examine example coins to see if there aren't additional die characteristics that confirm positive ID, like diagnostic die cracks. We didn't go into that in this talk, but some of these varieties have other features that are larger that may be easier to see in auction imagery. Make discoveries. Though the St. Gaudens Double Eagle series ended in 1933, new die varieties are still being discovered. Notice any anomalies you find in your searching. It may be a brand new die variety discovery. I found this one coin. I'm aware of a few other repunch mint marks that Roger has had people send in to him. So there's still new ones being discovered all the time. Enjoy the hunt. Collecting St. Gaudens Double Eagle die varieties remains largely unexplored territory. Though a century has passed since these coins circulated, only now are we learning about these fascinating varieties and their potential rarity. A new era in St. Gaudens Double Eagle collecting has begun. And that's the end.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ross. That was a wonderful presentation. We do have one question for all of you viewing. If you do have any questions, please put them in the Q&A in the chat so that I can read them to Ross. The first question, what does attribution mean? I think he was referring to the attribution census slide
Actually,
that you had.
yes. What attribution is when they mention on the slab and in their census the variety. So, for example, well, I can go back and find one, but if it says on the slab that it's got an FS number, that's a Favaz-Stanton number, Stanton number. And those are the variety identifiers. You'll see it often on older coins. You'll see it on what they call VAMs, which are the Morgan dollar varieties. It basically, when you're holding the slab in your hand, it says that it's certified to be a particular variety. And that's important because when you go to sell your coins, if you sell them to a dealer or you go to sell them through an auction house, if somebody doesn't point it out, a lot of these dealers are not familiar. It's not like they're trying to put one over on you. They don't know about these. Roger's book's only been out for 2 or 3 years. And as they become more knowledgeable, it won't be such a big deal, but it is at the moment. And it's one of the reasons why people say, well, nobody pays a premium for that. Well, if it's not on the slab, you don't understand why somebody's paying a premium for it, which, Steve Roach is no fool. And, he wrote an article saying, well, I wonder why somebody paid this for this. And that's the issue. It's, unfortunately, the Cherry Picker's Guide is sort of the gatekeeper, because if it can get into that book, then both PCGS and NGC will attribute the coin if you point it out to them. They won't necessarily notice it on their own. Hopefully they will. I think they do, actually, when it comes to the cherry picker varieties, because it's in their best interest to do it. But some of these other less familiar ones, but nonetheless dramatic ones, you have to point out to people. And I'm sitting on quite a few PCGS unattributed coins that I can't send to them and have them put the attribution. And the only thing I can do if I want them attributed is cross them over to NGC. And I don't necessarily want to do that. Number one, it's expensive. It doesn't cost much if you have a coin that you just want to get the attribution on it, it's relatively inexpensive. It's a small charge because it's not being regraded. If you cross it over, you're paying for the whole shit map again. So it's really, it's important. If you decide that you like these and you want to collect them, you'll want your coins attributed. And that's a good thing. And people are doing it. I mean, somebody's doing it because the numbers are going up. So is it dealers? Is it collectors? It's hard to know.
Okay, one more question. In your opinion, it seems that varieties recognized by PCGS and NGC are more sought out. Your tables showing year versus year increases showed that majority of new certified examples were examples recognized by both services.
Mm-hmm. I would say it's biased a little bit toward the Cherry Picker's Guide because clearly that is the more definitive. Everything in the Cherry Picker's Guide is also in the Variety Plus page. So, you get double whammy for that. And I would think that anything that goes into the Cherry Picker's Guide will, if it's not already on the Variety Plus page, it'll find its way there pretty quick, because Dave Lang as much as said that they include the cherry picker varieties there. NGC is clearly more liberal when it comes to catering to the variety collector. And it's difficult because, a lot of the variety people like Kaneka, they're not interested in gold coins, and they're interested in pennies and dollars and quarters and all that. And that's fine. But this is why this is kind of a special opportunity here, because this is a series that has quite a few varieties in it. Mm-hmm. And some of them are quite interesting and dramatic, and some of them are not that expensive at this point. I mean, the coins themselves are expensive, mm-hmm. but when you think about it, if people are collecting saints to begin with, theoretically, they've already decided to spend a certain amount of money on coins, and why not get something that's rare?
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that's all the questions I have for you today. Thank you for your wonderful presentation, and thank you all for joining us. This should be up on the website within the next week or so that you can watch it over if you'd like. You guys all have a great week. We'll talk to you soon.